Peace and blessings, and welcome back to the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast. We have been named the 30 for 30 for independent music and independent artists, and it's always important for us not only to tell the stories, but for us to learn from the stories we are given. We believe hip hop is more than music. Hip hop is God. And if we are God's heritage, then his heritage is hip hop. And part of the heritage is to go back to the library, which means the people who came before us to get that knowledge that may not be written down, because experience is the best teacher. And in life is a classroom without walls. So tonight we're going to sit down and talk to one of the teachers who's going to teach us not only through his experience, but through the essence of learning, doing, progressing, and then recycling that to keep the culture alive. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Wow, hold on, man. Like, you can't just give all of that on the intro and expect me just to jump right in on some, random hello. First and foremost, I gotta thank you for inviting me here and being in this time period with you. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak to your audience. I'm Benny Pough. I've been in the music business now for 3 decades. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a music exec. I'm a father. I'm a teacher. I'm an author. I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well. And I'm having a great time living my life for the most part. So thank you once again for having me.
It's an honor and a pleasure, because heritage hip hop was not built on who has the hottest beat and who has the hottest lyrics. Heritage hip hop was built on us telling our story, because people will never tell us who we are, or people will never effectively capture the essence of who we are with just pen and paper. We want to hear the story from the people who are actually there, or who lead the foundations being driven for the next generation. So with that being said, my first question to you is, when did you first realize you were hip hop?
I mean, that's a loaded question, right? So you'd have to think what life was before the music was birthed in the Bronx, right? So we probably didn't have a phrase or a coin or, a pronoun or a noun for what was that we were feeling at that point in our lives. I'm definitely an 80s baby, and what we thought before hip hop, we were cool, right? And cool was everything that, encompassed a way of life, from our parents coming from the South, realizing like they wanted a better life for their kids. They realized that we were poor, but that wasn't our life, that we were bigger than our environment. And that's what the music has ultimately become, right? A reflection of the people who have struggled and how we have now uplifting ourselves and continue to grow. And now the plight is not just, the Black man. The plight is going broader to every man that lives in those circumstances in mind. So I think I realized, if we say hip hop, right? Because I'm a suburban kid, so I can't really, there are very few people that came from Harlem or the Bronx or Brooklyn, right? But we all felt that pain and struggle through the music. And in the beginning, it was fun. You gotta realize, in the beginning, hip hop was, it was fun, and it was poetry, and it was, the environment was different than what it is today. So I guess I realized that, when I bought, my first hip hop record to school in the 7th grade, which was Rapper's Delight. So at that point, I think I was hip hop then.
That's great, because like I said earlier, we don't believe hip hop comes from music. Hip hop really comes from God himself. In my studies of understanding the Quran or the Bible or the Torah, I've seen hip hop far through the scriptures before we even coined it as a musical phrase. And when I look at the scriptures like there's nothing new under the sun, I see inspiration is the one key factor that makes life prolific, because it keeps life going. What was the first inspiration you've ever had that made you that sparked the life come alive?
So I think the thing is, and I'm not going against what you're saying. I can't say hip hop is God.
Okay, let's talk about
Like,
it.
hip hop's not God, right?
Okay.
It didn't create the seas. It didn't create, the void from darkness. It didn't move the sun. So it's a lot, right? To say hip hop is God. What hip hop is, though, is a voice, and it's a movement, and it's a spirit. I would go that far. I wouldn't say that it's God, right? It's definitely a spirit. I would give hip hop that because it changes. And a lot of the people that are involved in this are poets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as that, they have a presence and importance and an obligation and a stewardship and followers, right? So I think in that realm, I don't think it's wrong, but I can't put God on hip hop. I don't even want that to be that, because like, you know what, one thing that we do, and as you stated in your statement, whether you're the Torah, the Quran, or the Bible, it's about love, faith, hope, and the betterment of man. Hip hop doesn't give you that consistently. Hip hop gives you a different variation of what the presence and the essence of the people, the poets that are bringing, right? Jesus brought one word to the people, right? That was important and powerful and impactful. I don't know if every rapper does that. That doesn't mean the language that he speaks isn't speaking to his followers, but what does become important is leading the followers to what? Ultimately, right? If you a lean rapper, do you really want your followers? If you a gangbanger, or you a trapper, like, so you're a monogynist, so you can't. It's not the edification of uplifting the people and us as people. Like, if we're going to just stay micro, us as people, we need as much positivity as possible. And when we entered the game in the beginning, that's where it started very positive, bro. And it was very enlightening. So I think now it's just different. That's why I just say, no, I can't put hip hop as God. That's all.
No, I appreciate that, because even a book in the hand of the wrong person, the words would sound good, but the intent is what you're judging it off of.
I'll give you that. Yes, sir.
Just like what you said, like, can a lean rapper do that? As with the story of Rehoboam. Rehoboam wanted to be a good king, but he forsake the word of the elders and only went to the youth. And see, that's where hip hop kind of has the same divide, because
hip hop is powerful, bro. I mean, we're not gonna minimize it,
of course,
right? Because these are the modern day prophets, and the ones ultimately the people who understand the power of the words that they speak will be the ones that make change. The ones that only speak to monetize are the ones that are going to destroy us. So the power is in hip hop. There is power in hip hop. We're not minimizing that. We just saying hip hop ain't a god. That's all.
Oh, no, not a god. No. I don't want to take it there. Because as you see God in nature, you can see God in all things. It's how we use and interpret it that will make it such. Like you have godly power in my eyes, because you are able to speak things into existence and then follow the path for it to go. Like the spirit scripture says, the Most High's words are like the rain. It goes out and does its job, and it doesn't come back. It has a purpose. And like you said, with like the poets, when we speak or something is spoken and it speaks life into you, that's the beginning of the creation of the planet. That is the beginning of the creation of man. And even within our own persons, whether you're man, woman, child, or whatever, it is the internal spoken word that leads the actions out of the body to create what path you're going to go on to. Do you agree?
You know what? I feel where you're going. I feel it. I love the energy, sir. I love it.
Okay. Well, part of inspiration,
yes, sir,
is choosing a path. Hip hop started in the inner city because people got tired of the negativity and wanted to try to make a path of something better. Peace, love, and having fun. Eventually, the world, I'm skipping a lot of stuff because it's irrelevant to the conversation, but eventually different pockets of the world were opened up because some people followed or had the same inspiration due to the same circumstances, but in different regions. So it's when we got to hear these different stories that a lot of inspiration came, because there's others like you, and you got to first understand that since there are others, how do I make my story known? What is the most important story you learned, whether it's from another person or about yourself, that helped propel you to your path?
There's integrity is probably the theme most important in my story, is that the journey has been very clear to me that in order to grow and prosper and matter, is to make sure that people have the ability to believe in the words that you say, right? And what I've learned along the way, from my days at Motown, starting in the business as an intern, and is that what you say is what you mean, especially in a business that is fostered and developed from relationships. You get a job in the music industry because someone has referred you, someone has endorsed you, someone has stamped you, someone has said, like, you know what, I validate this individual. So therefore, for you to get to that process means that you have to stand for something. You mean something. And ultimately what you say is what you mean, is what matters most importantly. So, you know, whether it's my days at Motown, starting as an intern, showing up early, staying late, working with the artists, doing the work that no one else wanted to do, realizing like this is my passion and my dream, that I am committed to this, is what was most important. And that theme alone took me from Motown, moved me on to Perspective Records, which, you know, working for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, another African-American company, being a part of what they were developing as well. And then moving from there to Arista Records, which was a very important learning experience, being a part of a lot of the new and artists of the era, Monica, Usher, Goody Mob, you know, worked some of the projects from I.M.P.A.C.T and as well. So I think what was really key was making sure that what I said was what I did.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. Your word is your bond, and your word is. I've heard somebody say this: you can only be the new guy one time, because you're going to make a first impression, and if you can't stand on your word, then your actions, no matter how good they are meaningless. Is there something that you did that turned the light bulb on for others that propelled you through relationship building, instead of you being a talker and people hearing you without seeing the action and believing in you?
Absolutely not. Like, what I said is what I did. Conviction is what it was. I mean, I would do, even if I lost, if I put my word to it. If I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And if it didn't work to my advantage and I gave my word, then that's my bust. But my word means more than anything. And in a business that's created, you know, it's a community of people in the music business. It's important that you have a reputation, and your reputation is all that you have.
I respect that. I'm learning that through the media side as well, that I think we take our words for granted, because a lot of people will say who they are, but they don't say or stand on what they do or say that leads to the actions of what is done. You see what I mean? And I think that's a faulty perception that I personally think we learned through non-impactful education. There's a certain thing that you can't teach, which is called passion. What ignited your passion for what you do?
Man, listen, humble beginnings and realizing where you come from, what you stand for, and where you want to go. Ultimately, I never went to bed any night in my life and walked around any day and said, I want to be rich, right? That's shallow, that's hollow. What you do look to is, I'm going to wake up today and give my best day at what I can do. And once you put the work in, the end result will be your best, which will propel you to where you need to be, right? Because if you're working hard, then you can't be nothing but rewarded for the success and the fruit of your labors that you put in, because you'll be recognized, right? And if you're not recognized by others, you're internally understanding that you're doing your best. So it's a win-win either way.
That's very deep. I respect something that you said prior, because it reminds me of my dreams when I was a younger man. My dream was to always work on Video Music Box. I would always email Ralph McDaniels, and I wanted to be on that show so bad, because that's where I got my understanding of appreciation for others that look like me. So my passion, like I said, passion for me came from seeing others. Passion for me never came for people in front of the microphone. It came from people who were behind the cameras and who talked to the people in those positions. That's why I always respected the street team. Tell me about the street team, and is the street team a lost art that social media took away from business?
Hold on, but isn't social media influences this modern day street team? Ultimately, when you think about what the street team and what there still are street teams. So that's not a lost art. I mean, if you really think about what the street team personnel and the people that ran those departments, they were the hottest people in the city. So now all we're really talking about, who are the hottest people in the world, right? They're the people who have the contacts, the resources. You know, everybody wants to be connected. They are the movers and shakers in the marketplace. And now the marketplace is just the world stage, because that's where the era that we live in. It's a global connection in everything that we do. So therefore, it's not just micro. But if you do want to be hot in Dothan, Alabama, you would want to tie in to whoever the hot person is. If he or she happens to be the biggest influencer, social media wise, that's great. But guess what? There's still a lot of hot boys moving in the streets that's going to get you right as well. So I think it's kind of, you know, it runs in tandem with one another. So it's not gone. It's just how it's been purposed today.
Evolution of the game comes with technology, as you just said, because the technological piece of success comes from, as you said, street teaming, but also comes with knowing who you work with, how to work with them, which goes back to relationships. As a person in the industry, you always hear people talk about, I have to get signed.
Right.
What's the most important thing about being in the industry that people take for granted by just looking at the outcome rather than the journey that goes with the goal?
Well, I think what people have to do is realize the value of putting the work into what they believe in. And ultimately it comes down to, you know, if this is what you really want to do, then you have to focus and concentrate on it. And how do you do that? You put together a team, right? And in a part of your team as an artist, because you can't do it all yourself, is to establish someone who can do your business, whether it be a manager. You need to have a lawyer, you need to have an accountant, you need to have people that are going to help you to alleviate the things in your business that are going to be more than just doing artistry things. You being the artist is what's most important, but having a team to help you with your business is equally as important.
But you don't always, the team you have is not always the team that you start with.
Oh. Absolutely.
I think that's one of the major lessons that a lot of people take for granted as well. Like we always say, what people say in the churches, everything happens in a season. There's seasons to things. And there's certain times when people are afraid to let go. I was always taught to receive, you have to unball your fist and open your hand.
Of course.
And a lot of people hold on, so they're not receiving.
Right.
What was in your development from street team At Perspective, shout out to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Yo, give it to him. Give it to him.
Yeah, cause that if you don't know Dome, please do your history on great music. Swing. What's the Janet Jackson? Don't play with me. All right. But from that time to even going to M.C.A. Records, and shout out to M.C.A. Records because the M.C.A. label is a staple in a lot of history when it comes to music. Even if you're a fan of Uptown, M.C.A. or whatever, you have to know that this is a company that had a nice hold on some of the best world-changing influential artists in the world. And like I said, the people behind it are the ones that kind of inspired me the most. Tell me about the one lesson that you learned as you transitioned from Street Team to your positions at that label that propelled you into the desire for more, not just being there.
It's I look at my career as it was for me because it was the best process to get me to where I'm at. I took the slow route. I never wanted to be shiny. I never wanted to overplay my hand and just want to ingratiate people and be next to who's hot and who's not. I committed myself to the work, and getting to the point of dealing with the street team aspect showed me more than just being a regular promotions person, because I understood the process of development, from going from being an intern to being a college promoter, to being a regional, to now dealing with the street aspect, to growing to a VP and then a senior VP. Every step of the process I've been a part of and I understood, which prepared me for each moment post the situation that I was in. And I think that's why I can wake up one day and say, like, I've been a part of the music business for 30 years because I've been in the business from the guy that really got cigarettes and coffee to, being the guy who goes with the intern to go get, coffee and have a conversation. Because it's always about staying connected and learning and understanding what the process is. Once with the dangerous part of growing is not staying connected, right? So when you when you get to the top and you stay at the top, then you really get to the point of no return, because now you have to live where you are, but you're not learning anymore. You're learning differently, but the root of who you are and what you become and how you can improve your business becomes limited. Now you're going to secondhand information as opposed to touching it yourself. And there's a difference between, getting a car delivered on, what is that, Canva, right?
Yeah. As
opposed to going to the dealership.
Right.
Buying a car, looking at the images on the internet is different than sitting in that car going, man, that when I hit that, or this is too far, or I don't like this color, because now you feel it. So when I was coming up the ranks, I felt every aspect of the business to know how to make the right and wrong decisions, how to move, when to talk, when not to talk, when to be a part, when to step back. And that comes from the experience of being in it.
Once again, everybody, experience is the best teacher, because life is the classroom without walls. You get experience anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my guest, Benny Pough, entrepreneur, real estate mogul, genius. And let's talk about that. A lot of people get very enamored, and I don't want to cut off any of your successes with the music industry, because that's all great. I love the fact that when I read about you, we learned about Jeremiah, DJ Khaled, and like I said, those are important things in your life. But people don't really focus on the journey to get there. And I wanted to appreciate you and give you flowers for your journey, because everybody judges a man by his jewelry, but nobody judges a man by his scars, because we all have to take a journey to get there. You see what I'm saying? And the street team part of your life or career to the executive vice president and leader thing is what what I appreciate the most, because on your journey up, you have to appreciate the people that you've met on that journey from the bottom to what you call the top.
Right.
When you first started, what was the most important relationship you established that paid off at the end or at the top, as you said, at the time?
So when I first started, the young lady who hired me at the time was the promotion director at Motown Records. I actually fell into the music business. I was a stand-up comic, and I was booked for this show at this place called The Cellar on 96 in Amsterdam. And at the end of the show, she asked me what were my plans, and I hadn't even put together my resume at that point. So realizing that, she asked me if I wanted to be her intern, and you know where we come from, we don't know what no intern is. So she said, I was like, yeah, I'll be that, because I was a sales guy. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. Why not? Like, I'm gonna be the intern, whatever that was. But fast forwarding beyond that, you know, decades later, she's what she was able to give me and groom me and help me and move me forward. You know, I'm able to give back. You know, we did a movie together, Life, Love, Soul, which I'm the executive producer of, which she brought to me, which, you know, I was super excited about. As well as now she's helping me launch On Impact, which is my book, which is coming out in 2022. And what that is what we as Black people forget, right, is the value of a relationship. Because what we always look at is not how impactful it can be having someone that's gonna walk the walk with you and hold your hand and be that shadow with you, and also that protective for what you can't see. We look for the moments to take everything from what we see and move forward. And what happens is that you can play leapfrog, but at some point, you know what, you wind up putting yourself in a situation where you see yourself alone. And, you know, what is a man, you know, to spend all of your time moving forward, but then to enjoy it all by yourself. So ideally, it shouldn't be about just you. It should be about all of those who you bring along with you. And that's what you learn in this journey. I mean, it's easy to fall victim to the success and king or queenitis, right? You know, when we get money, we start thinking like, you know, we better than everybody, we bigger than everybody, you know, because you can afford different things, talk to different people, but you forget about, like, you know what, there's an accountability for that. Your success needs to be our success. And ultimately, when you're successful and we're successful, then we start to have power. Because ultimately right now we're powerless, because we can't trade money more than one hand. You know, what do we care about the couple people who have millions and billions of dollars when we have kids that can't even, you know, get milk and cheese and, you know, live in you know, decent quarters and get great education? Like, so what? You know, somebody who has $1 million and they not doing nothing with it to help everybody else. And once we get back into the giving aspect of our lives, you know, I think we not only in music, right, but as a race and as a people, and also as a community, will be able to help not only ourselves, but the larger community, right? Because our contributions will then become far more important than just the amount of revenue that we're able to generate for others.
Do you think that's part of the programming of post-traumatic slave disorder? Do you think that's a summation of Reaganomics? Or do you think that just sums up as societal greed through social media and technology?
Okay, so, you know, a lot of things could be true in what you asked, right? Mm-hmm. But you nor I were born slaves. So if we weren't born slaves, then we shouldn't hold on to slave mentality and slave thoughts. Because guess what? Success is going to come from your efforts. And one thing I learned being in the corporate environment, people care about green, right? So there is the white-black thing that exists, but they love the people that make green. black or white. So it depends on which race you're running, right? And obviously, and that's why it's important for us who are put in these positions that there's a responsibility, because nothing's going to be given to us. We're 13% of the population. Latinx, they 17%. So at some point, we not even going to be the trophy no more. So you can keep talking that, it's important, but ultimately we have to break that chain and realize guess what? How are we going to do what we need to do? Because everyone else is doing what they need to do. I remember when my parents first moved to New York, and they were the ones who had a 5-family house. And what they would do is the people from the South would come to New York, and our house was a destination for you to get your foot into, the environment. You would come, my moms would allow you to stay 6 months, get you a job, somebody will hook you up with a job. You'd be able to get your first apartment. You'd be able to have this, you'd be able to do that. And those things are what create what we call now the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Or giving people opportunity to better themselves from what they were, because staying in a low wage environment where you're making minimal and opportunities are limited, coming to a limitless environment, right? But just getting in a break to improve your life becomes very profound and important. But given the opportunity, you can at least get a chance. And that, what we don't do, or what we need to do better, is realize what? We have to, reach one, teach one, right? So ideally, we're all responsible for each other. And that's what we need to promote more than, denigrating our women, talking about, our economic advancement, through song, right? For a few, not pressing on education, right? Not, most importantly, going beyond and not understanding the spiritual aspect of who we are and our being and what we are and where we come from and what we've committed to. And I think once we get back to understanding the trueness of who we are and where we're from and what we're about, will open up a lot of doors for us as Blacks to move into a different place in space.
That's the entrepreneurial mindset that you talked about. And I love that you said that, because I believe entrepreneurism is what America was built off of, not dependency. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us have forced dependency due to the situations that our country has come from. Though we don't have to hold on to it, there are many truths that are very self-evident that all men have a choice. Why do you think most people choose liberty instead of freedom?
Well, it's perspective, right? And, liberty is ushered, freedom is, that's a belief, in essence, because you can be free and still be locked.
That's facts.
Right? So I think what's important is that for us to really start thinking beyond, history. Hold on, I don't want to missay or misstate. The history is important, but the history is the past, and the past needs to be applied in order to move you forward, right? And I think for us, we need to understand the power of education, which is the freedom. Once you're educated, nothing can stand in your way. That you catch a lick, you can catch, think about lotto. White or black, whomever gets lotto. Think about how that works. So people who've never had economics, who've never had a checkbook, because it's random. But the majority of people who do get locked, and if you look at the regions on where people actually hit, you start to think about that, right? It's always rule anything, right? So you actually, the odds are being played so that the money actually goes back into the system. But that's a whole different level of conversation though, right? Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, so if you're a lottery winner and you've never had a checking account, you've never had any financial literacy, you don't understand the difference between, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million, right? Because it's all a lot of money to you now if you've only made poverty level income or below, right? Because our family comes from that, and I also rent to people who live on that cusp. So now you get $100 million. What you gonna do? Unless you just put it in a checking account, and the worst thing is that you don't get any interest on it. So now you don't owe the man, right? He putting liens on you, right? So what are you gonna do? Because you just don't know what to do. So therefore, is it your fault that you ran through this money? Or do you park it, you get educated and learn? That's gonna take you 5 years or however long, right? That would be the wise thing to do, right? Because realize everyone that you bring in is gonna know a little more than you. So everything that people say to you sounds better to you than what you think on your own. So isn't that the situation we've been in? If we're not educated, if we're not getting the education, everything's always gonna sound better. So guess what? If there's one thing that we can do, and one thing that we would ask to do, and one direction we would want to move in, I vote for education. Because the education is going to empower the next generation of giants.
I agree with you 100%. And the only beef I've ever had with education in this country is this. We have a federal board of education, then we have state boards of education, and then we have 12 school systems on average in each state. So we don't all learn the same thing. We don't all grow at the same path. But everybody's path is not the same, correct?
But also realize too, though, and even dealing with that, and like I'm a numbers kind of guy, right? So if we 13% of the population, and everything that you said is true, guess what? There's 87% of the population that's getting the same, right? Like you got to think the majorities there's more people in the majority that are at a disadvantage as well, right? But it's not publicized.
Yeah,
it's not publicized, right? But we're not the only one that's at a disadvantage. Not saying, but what we need to be concerned about is our disadvantage.
Facts.
Right? That's what we're concerning ourselves with, is our disadvantage and how we approve that. Our odds to get, on base. That's what's most important. And ultimately, if we're only talking about it and not making any change about it, then guess what? The next generation of people like you are going to be saying the same things, because we've not corrected the system and we've not fought for the right things to improve, right? Because guess what? Our forefathers did. That's why you went to public school. That's why we can go to public school and there's a white kid and a black kid and a Chinese kid, right? And a Colombian kid, right? And an African kid can be in that classroom because the people before you made a difference in the change. So if every generation is important for them to realize what's going wrong and how we correct it and do right. And as a people, we have to start thinking about those things, right? And do our house cleaning and realize like it's okay to be wrong in order to be right.
I agree with you 100%. I always say, I'd rather be wrong than learn than be right all the time and walk away with the same thing I walked in the room with.
Oh, I love that.
I say that all the time. And I want to go back to something that you said in the question I asked you. Why do people choose liberty over freedom or vice versa or whatever? I think the most freeing thing a person can do is stand on their word and tell their own story. What sparked you to tell your story and not just live a life where you could or could not have been known?
Well, God put me where I'm at. And why I say that, not from, just a broad spiritual perspective, is true. I was in a near-death car accident, hit a tree at 90 miles an hour, and I'm still here to tell a story, right? And out of that, I had a level 2 concussion, L3, L4 vertebrae fracture, bulging disc in my back, bled half the blood out of my body, sustained lacerated liver, and also, they had to remove 2 feet of my small intestine. And I live to tell, my story. And out of that came a book. And the book was called On Impact, which was literally and figuratively, my life hitting a tree. And most of us go through an impact in our lives. And everyone doesn't have to change their life hitting a tree at 90 miles an hour. But that was my calling and my change. And IMPACT stands for, it's an acronym for intuition, mastery, pivot, authenticity, communication, and teamwork. And what the book does is take the reader through my journey from delivering newspapers at 11 years old to right now being on your show. And at the end of each chapter is a hit list of to-dos that you can apply to your life to say, pretty much, if Benny could do it, I can do it too. So that's how my story came into being.
God bless you, and may the Most High keep blessing you, because life is a gift that gives, and when it ends, it ends. Mm-hmm. So for you to be above ground and for me to be able to have this conversation with you, but that's not the point of me saying this. I'm happy that your experience inspires you to reach and teach one, to inspire one. I was looking on your Instagram, and the one thing that I do love is the quotes that you give. I'm a quotable guy. Those are bars. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to somebody who was the president of Roc Nation. So that the Carters and all that, that's him. So the person who's behind the financials and the forecasting of things, that's him. People are enamored by that. But what you just said to me is the most important thing about the interview that we're having, is because, like I said, people would judge you on the name brand, but they don't judge you on the experience or the scars that you have. And that scar that you just described is one that not only will make somebody sit down, it will also make somebody consider. What do you think people take for granted when it comes to the story, and why the story is the actual teaching point of life rather than just doing things and gathering experience?
Are you saying in general or my story?
Take both.
Okay, so there's no blueprint for who you are. Mm-hmm. So it's if you think about the evolution on how we grow from infancy to adult, and the lessons that we learn along the way become important in how you apply them in your life. So at some point you decide to be you, and in being you, you commit to you. And once you understand you, your course of what you feel is driving you and the purpose on why you're here. And a lot of people haven't figured out that yet. So time goes by and you haven't really figured out why you're here. So you've burned a lot of time just doing things to satisfy. And, satisfaction comes from a lot of different things, right? Like, we all have different vices. We all have different habits. We all have different appreciation. We all have different hobbies. But once you find that true purpose, you're able to drive this life. And when you get to the point where it's satisfactory, you would hope that you brought a lot of people along the way, right? So when life is good is when it's not only about you anymore. It's about everyone that you brought along with you.
David Banner said that too. He said the most rewarding thing about his entire music career is when he started his own company and he was able to give people their paychecks. He said that meant so much to him. And what you said kind of reminded me of that, because it talks about purpose. And I was taught this as a younger man. A man gives you a job, but God gives you your work. Mm-hmm. That a job can come and go, but your work is the purpose in which you produce for the Lord through your actions, your words, and how you lay a foundation. Let me ask you an offshoot question. What was the best job you ever had, and what is the best work you ever produced?
I mean, the best job I've ever had, and I don't know if it's not going to be in the typical sense of what a job is, right? But I would say that the best investment of my time has been to my kids, right? Because it's in watching who they become and molding and giving them the opportunities. And the opportunities is giving them the mental experience and relationship to understand, like, there's what they want to be and what they can be. There are no boundaries. And working on that with them every day and committing that time, because that's what a job is, right? Just a commitment of time, right? It's something that you have to show up to and perform and execute, and is what that order of conversation or business is. So for me, the best job I've had is being a part of my children's career.
In the work? What's the best work you've ever done?
I mean, the work, man, that would be, where would we start is having the opportunity to be a part of, some of the most iconic artists in the world. Starting with, in my career, the first artist I signed, which was Field Mob out of Columbus, Georgia, and FLY Swag Surf, which is a Black University classic, right? And to modern day being signing Future and Yo Gotti and Cash Out, and being a part of like Travis Scott and 21 Savage, and and those people who have experienced what a great team, and that's I've been a part of, is a lot of great teams, what they can bring with proper talent, proper music and vision to the world stage. So I think that would be the best work, being a part of some of today's icons' careers.
You inspired me before I even met you in this interview.
You gotta tell me about that. That's because I need that.
Okay, let's go deep into it, because I have a different mind. Like I said, I have a different mind when it comes to how I look at life and how I listen to music. I like strategy. That's my thing. Mm-hmm. So, in going through my history of understanding things, I once heard a person say, I want to be in the music industry and I want to sign the next Usher. And people are like, well, who do you know? Who's Usher? How do you know you have the next one if you don't know who Usher is? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like I said, people will judge you off of what you do, not the scars. So in looking at what you have accomplished, the main thing I wanted to talk to you about was the SCAR, to put as an acronym, not and when you talked about, one thing I've always wanted was mentors, because in my life personally, there have not been a lot of positive male figures to instill knowledge. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm always looking for mentors. And when you said you have to appreciate a mentor, because somebody to give you something, it is disrespectful. Your time, their energy, their knowledge, their know-how. It's very disrespectful for you to have a mentor and then not apply the knowledge to show not only your appreciation, but the fact that they're there for a reason, not just there for you to talk to. Mm-hmm. that's the inspiration you gave me, because I've talked to a lot of people and I've seen what did not happen. And it's always when you see the things that do happen, you appreciate not only them, but you thank God for what it was that you were able to give them. That's the inspiration you gave me by giving without even knowing you're giving. You may have gave some words, but you birthed life into the creativity. You birthed life into the inspiration that most people take for granted, and that's through a conversation.
Wow, and you know, I remember that interview. And what's important about that is everything that we talked about on this interview, right? It's not about just you. And taking two questions back, it's, you know, for me, I've had an opportunity in the music business. The greatest thing was to give opportunities to people who wouldn't have had opportunities. Not that they weren't smart people, not that they wouldn't potentially have been accomplished, but their opportunity came through music. And what it did was we were able to provide for their families, give them institutional knowledge and wisdom and understanding that they then too would pass on. Everyone who worked for me, you couldn't work for me if your plan was not to buy where you live. That's just period. There is no, that's not happening. You're not blowing your money. Because one thing about the music business is, you know, you're not gonna be in this forever. You can make $50,000 and it can end tomorrow. You can be making $100,000 and it can end tomorrow. You could be making $1 million and it could end tomorrow. And while you're making it, you need to prepare for your exit. And that was part of what I wanted to instill in everybody who has worked for me. And what was so rewarding, more so than anything else, was I was talking to one of the people who I worked with, who worked for me. And they were telling me that they were in the process of thinking about buying a 123 unit building complex, right? This was somebody who actually started on the street team. You understand? But the reason why is because I didn't tell him and let him watch me. I showed him, right? And that's what we get afraid of, is teaching people how to fish. Stop feeding people. Teach them how to fish. Stay with them till they catch something. Move them around that pond where the fish is at so they can eat. And that then will prosper greatness for us in music, out of music, all around. And that's what's probably has been the most rewarding thing for me, right? When you say the work, is that my work will live on based on the work that I've given to those who keep working, moving us forward.
That's why I said this interview, I hope, is the beginning of many, because whenever you get inspired, you follow the inspiration. It said when God's voice moved across the waters, it was inspiration. So ladies and gentlemen, when you find anything that gives you life, do your best to hold on to it, because it's when you lose it, you start getting depressed, you start regretting. And instead of living with regrets, let's conquer our regrets by moving forward through the inspiration that the Most High allows us to have. Because remember, we're 1 in 9-point-something billion people, which means you have one opportunity to impact as many people as you can, because the others who don't know the blessing of knowing you yet have not gotten the opportunity because you haven't stepped out yet. So step out of yourself and be great. Before we close out this interview, please give everybody your social media, what you have coming forward, and what else we can expect from you.
So I have my book that's coming out 2022. It's called On Impact. Also D.Verse Media, which I have an artist who I'll be dropping in December. Her name is Paris Gatlin. She's a phenomenal songstress. It's the first release off of my label. And I'm also involved in an app, co-founder of Candid. which is monetization app. So people have an opportunity to do microtransactions with their content. So I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I'm looking forward to having conversations. You can reach me on my socials at Benny Pough, as well as bennypough.com. If anyone wants to reach out and spend a little time with me, you can come to consultation and we can have some one-on-one.
So ladies and gentlemen, make sure you consult. But guess what? This interview is not over. Not a long shot. That's the first part of the interview. For anybody who's new to Heritage Hip Hop, you get the story in the beginning, but then we have the rapid fire questions in the second part. You ready to play this game with me, sir?
Oh, give it to me.
So the rapid fire questions are not yes, no questions. These are questions that show the depth of knowledge of yourself, your brand, your chosen entity of business, and more so the work that you do to leave a mark in the world beyond your lifetime. So the first question I'm going to ask you, and you have different questions because you're not a music artist. You have a you have a lot of quotables. Like I love, you should just put a book out, but your quotables, because I love them. You know what I'm saying? Bars. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk a little bit and let's give some people some of these one shots. Here we go. Question number one. What song or album perfectly describes you?
What song? Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder.
You know, that's everybody's go-to answer on this on my platform. That's a great album, everybody.
Oh, it's amazing. If you listen to it, what else would it be? But go ahead,
that's great. Second, I'm gonna ask you a chess question based on something that you said. Kings have rulership and queens have dominion, right? What does the bar "cash is queen" means?
Oh man, cash is queens, because you know where the power is. I mean, if you just think about, women are the majority. Women are the majority of us, right? So when you think about cash, you have to connect with the female aspect of where we live. Like, women rule everything right now, man. They ruled everything since the beginning. There will be no men without women. So if you want to understand power and you want commerce, you need to connect. So that's what it meant.
I like that. Another thing you said is stop worrying about how much you make and start focusing on how much you give.
Oh, absolutely.
Why is knowledge then so hidden when it's so purposeful to be given?
Because people are selfish. Like, everyone doesn't want to see you strive. Everybody doesn't want competition. Everyone doesn't want a partner, right? So ultimately, it depends on those who actually get the opportunities, what they do within it. And the messaging is about, like, listen, share, man. Like, there was it's really interesting. I don't even quote rappers, but it's one thing that's been really profound to me my whole life. And if you think about what Jay said, what you eat don't make me, right? And ultimately, when you break that down, like, it's more than just a bar. If you think about getting to the table and someone gives you food, right? How that passes through their body has nothing to do, and how it supplies nutrients to you has nothing to do with them, right? Because we all are going to use it differently on how we move forward, right? But what's most important in that is that you're able to eat, right? When you're at the table, that somebody's going to share with you. Someone's going to give it to you, because ultimately what's going to satisfy your need is not necessarily going to satisfy my need. But since we're here together, let me eat with you.
I love that. See, more bars, y'all. You ever saw the movie Blood and Bone with Michael Jai White?
No, I haven't.
One of the most important fight scenes in that movie was not physical, it was verbal. And one of the things, it was an issue between two men. One was a Caucasian man, one was a man of melanated descent. And the man said, when your dog eats, do you let him sit at the table? Because that's how he's treating him, basically he was saying as a dog, right? And words seem to be just as voracious as a punch. They could do just as much, if not more damage. And how you take a punch, how you take your impact will serve as the strength of a man and his character.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that impact that you talked about that made you want to start telling your story, when you were in your many positions coming up the ranks from intern to president, which is a fabulous story in itself, what were some of the most adverse conditions you had to meet and beat and better yourself through that made you such a story and not a casualty of the growth?
Well, it was important for me to remain exactly what my parents instilled and embodied in me, which was the conviction of knowing who I was. And I realized, and especially getting into entertainment, everything is not going to be for you, right? There are a lot of people who took a lot fast that you never heard from anymore, meaning like, they're willing to sell themselves differently. They were, more amenable to things that they shouldn't have been. They were not prepared and they took it anyway, right? Because they saw something that really didn't exist, but it was, the shiny penny, so they went with it. So for me, my race has always been my race. My journey's been my journey. So how I start is truly how I will evolve and continue to move forward in this place and space. So I'm convicted and always have been, and that's what's led me through this.
I love that. Oh, by the way, shout out to Sha Montana. He said Future is the greatest rapper ever. So since you signed him, Sha, you can tell him thank you in the comments. You can join his website and tell him thank you on the website. All right. My next question, and I think this is a very important question because it's personal to me, is I'm a school teacher by trade, okay, besides this. And I think the most important job besides teaching is connections. Like I said, the relationships, like you said, right? And one of the most important goals I have in education for as long as I can have a job due to the things going on in the world today is making a connection in the community where more men are integral in their children's education and have relationships with the schools themselves. Mm-hmm. In reading the Bible the same way, it says that the young king, the most important duty he was given was to write out the first 5 books of Moses because that taught him the history and the law so he could govern his people correctly. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, what do you think is the most important lesson a young man can have in becoming a man, not only in his life, but in his chosen industry that he works as well?
I mean, the most important thing that any person can have is integrity. That's where we started this. That is, one of many principles that one would subscribe to if you want to have impact, you want to be remembered, you want to have, a lasting effect beyond your years, is because people have to believe in you. And belief is not just saying things, belief is doing it, believing it, breathing it, oozing it, right? That's the difference. And integrity encompasses all of that. Because what integrity as a compass does, it's gonna lead you from being everything you're not supposed to be because it's available to you. It's gonna move you to the point of where you should be because you know what's for you.
Integrity is one of the most underrated things that men are judged on, whether you know it or not.
Absolutely.
So everybody, your integrity.
And in our culture, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Once you get that, you done. When you don't mean what you say, nobody messing with you. It's over. Night night.
Yep, I say that to people all the time. When I meet people And they were like, well, let me give me your number and let's talk. I'm like, yeah, we could do that, or we could talk now and then we could reconnect at the end of the thing. So not only you remember me, but we could have a conversation. So I'm not somebody who's going to be a passerby in this conversation. And I respect you for saying that. I have 3 more questions and then we're going to end out. I mean, I thank you for this interview. I think this was a dope interview. I think I did a good job. You know what I'm saying?
You did an amazing job.
I appreciate that. I pat myself on the back because if you don't do it, who's going to do it for you? So Most High, thank you. You know what I'm saying? So let's wind down on these 3 questions. Let's have a little fun with one of the questions. What is the best album that came out from any artist you signed that changed your ear when listening to music?
Wow. That's from DSP or I.M.P.A.C.T. Like I.M.P.A.C.T. is a classic, B.
Okay.
Yes, yo, that's a classic. Like I still got cars with CD changers, and like I realized, him and Future, their albums, like their first albums were classic, bro. Like those are classic albums. Yeah.
I got to sidebar you for a second.
All right, give it to me.
For everybody in music or everybody who's doing music, what do people look for when they want to sign talent?
Star quality, something that makes you different than everyone else. Ideally, it all starts with the music, so don't get it twisted. Like you can come in looking crazy, you can sound crazy, you can be as eccentric as you want to be, but the music has to speak. So it all starts with the music in the music business, right? Just like no different in finance, it starts with the money, right? In real estate, it starts with the land, right? So it's no different in music. It starts with the music. Okay.
I think, it's weird to me because when you have so many artists that are credible, but they're not being heard. So that is a question that comes up in my mind, other people's minds, because everybody has an opinion on music. Everybody doesn't have the dollar to invest though. So it's like, how do we blow people up who have the talent if we're not investing in them?
But isn't that relative? Like, what is blowing people up? If you have a fan base of 20,000, 30,000 people that love you, then you know what? Feed them.
Exactly. That's my point.
Everyone's not going to be Drake.
Right.
Everyone's not going to be Drake. Like, if you getting into the business and all you see is you being Drake, well, you know what? Now you're not true to who you are. Right? You're not making music for what's necessary for what it is, your story that you have to tell. Because Drake didn't wake up saying that he wanted to be Drake. Drake woke up and said, I am Drake. And created it, right? And the creation of his music is what led him to be who he is. So I think ideally, running other people's race always puts you behind. Because that's not your race.
More bars, y'all. Okay. How did you like being on Heritage Hip Hop, or would you recommend this to somebody else?
Man, listen, this is an amazing experience. I love your thought. I love your mind. I love the approach that you've taken. I love the balance, and also, I love that you're not traditional. So this has been an amazing experience, and once again, I thank you.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this interview. Ladies and gentlemen, Heritage Hip Hop is available everywhere. We have our own digital real estate. You can join us at heritagehiphop.com. We are Heritage Hip Hop on YouTube, and you can see our many interviews. And we are Heritage Hip Hop on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts for our podcast. So whether you want to stream it or watch it, Heritage Hip Hop is here for you. Become members of the website. Membership is free. No, and not only that, we also give to our members as well. So you get members exclusives. We celebrate the hip hop culture worldwide, from Jersey to the entire world. So everybody is welcome to Heritage Hip Hop. With that being said, I'd like to thank our guests for being on the show. But here's the most important question. I have an open door policy to people. So I tell people, you don't have to be on Billboard's top 100 to be on Heritage Hip Hop. All you need is a story, right? And for you, you're not a music artist, but you've been in the industry. But the thing that most impresses me about you is not a bar you can talk. It's more of a story and perspective that can be given. So usually I ask, what legacy do you leave behind to make the world a better place because you did hip hop? Here is your question, sir. And this is the final question of this podcast. The story of your life is broken down by chapters. The greatest story ever told is the one in which you live. The Most High, blessings to the Most High and to you, that your story has not ended yet, and there will be many chapters added to your story. The most important question I want to ask you for this interview right now is this. In the story of your life up to this point, what is the most important chapter that someone will have to read or experience to know the true man that you are and not judge you by your cover?
You took a lot of time to come up with that question, right? I think what becomes important for anybody to understand me would first be to get to know me. And those who haven't the opportunity to get to know me would have the opportunity now through social media and my book on impact to delve a little bit into my life. And once you get into my life, you'd understand that you too and I share a lot of the same upbringings, devotions, commitments, and then two, realizing what our purpose is. So with my purpose is what you're gonna find from me. And I would say to anybody that realizing your purpose is gonna be what's most important to you. So that is our common thread. For those who don't know me, is realizing what your purpose is, and realizing a little bit deeper in me can help you is what's gonna be more important for you.
So everybody watching, we thank you for joining us, but most importantly, after experiencing this, really know who you are, what you want, and living your purpose and not searching for the answer of purpose. The most important thing you can do besides have the experience is gain knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and insight. Because through that, then your purpose is established because you have laid your path. And when you walk your path, not just talk your path, others will be inspired by your direction. And then you lay the foundation for people to get greater as we live and stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. So you will be an ancestor that inspires the world that comes after you the same way. This is Karev, a Heritage Hip Hop with Benny Pough. Once again, music, he talked about real estate, he talked about purpose, we talk God, and most importantly, we talk life. So live your life and be the best at your life. With that being said, we say peace and we out.
All right.